Well, I am so glad you are back on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam Laprade. I wanted to introduce you to a lady I'm getting to know today too, and that is Roxanne Whiting. Hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
It's great to be here with you and talk about Asign. You are the co-founder and also with business development. So tell me a little bit about your role at this wonderful organization.
Sure, so I'm not one of the founders, I'm one of the co-owners. There's
Perfect.
two other women that I share the pleasure of owning Asign. And we've been around since 1997. So celebrating 27 years in June.
That's fantastic. So tell us what you do.
So my role is Director of Business Development. I'm also a practicing American Sign Language interpreter, and I've been doing that for the last 26 years. My role now is communicating, reaching out, networking, letting people know about our services, and also trying to bring more business into the company as well. But
Which
yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got involved. Where did it all start for you?
Well, both of my parents are deaf, so my first language is American Sign Language, and then I learned English pretty much simultaneously because my grandmother used to watch me when I was a baby, so I was bilingual from birth, ASL and English. And then in high school, you start thinking about career options, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. My mother always said, you should be an interpreter. She worked for the federal government. She had interpreters that worked with her often. And I always, no, Mom, I don't want that. So I kind of took a gap year and was working some retail jobs, and one of my teachers from middle school actually had come into one of the stores I was working, and she said, Roxanne, why are you working here? And I said, income? And she said, but sign language, and the federal government pays well, and it's a viable career option. So it got me thinking about that, and so fairly quickly after I did my research, and off I went and studied to become an interpreter.
I love those turning points in people's lives. And it's amazing how a minute can change your whole life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Would you do anything else?
No, looking back, it's the right fit for me, especially, being a child of deaf adults. I didn't really understand that distinction until later, like as an adult, and then interacting more with the deaf community outside of my parents' bubble, so to speak. So interacting with other deaf people and professionals, and just really understanding that it's a culture and a community, and that I had a place in it as part of that culture. And then understanding that I have a privilege being able to hear, and kind of merging those two worlds together. So able to advocate for my peers and those that I know in the deaf community, but also being able to hear and enjoy things and understand things a little bit differently than the deaf community.
So who are the clients of Asign? Who's working with Asign?
So when we first were established, our primary work was based here in Ottawa with the federal government, the Ministry Attorney General, so the Ottawa Courthouse. Then it started growing to unions contacting us for large conferences, and so that's kind of what we specialized in. There are other organizations that provide and get funding from the Ministry of Health to do medical appointments, and that's not our main source of income or specialization. We really focus on business type of interpreting, conference level. We're across Canada now. Lots of things changed with disability legislation, but also with technology. So in 2014, the CRTC approved Video Relay Service, which is a telecommunications service for the deaf, which didn't replace, but was an upgrade from the old Bell Relay Service using a TTY, going through an operator third party. So now the third party still happens, but it's visual, over video with the sign language interpreter. So deaf Canadians are able to make telephone calls, to make an appointment, order a pizza, call work. And so we were awarded a contract through the Canadian Administrator of Video Relay Services in 2016, and that changed our business overnight because, as I said, from 1997 up until 2016, our focus was only Ottawa. We would be asked to go to other cities across Canada if there was a need, but once we started doing that, we needed more interpreters. So within a period of 3 years, I set up, along with my team, 3 call centers, one each year, in Edmonton, Halifax, and then Toronto, and then COVID came around. And prior to COVID, we were already venturing into video remote interpreting, which is everything other than a telephone call over video. So the CRTC has said that, you know, placing calls, you can't be in the same room and use the interpreter because the funding is meant for telephone communication access. So a deaf person couldn't show up at the car dealer, for example, and call video relay service to negotiate a deal on a car they want to purchase because of the funding parameters set out by the government. So video remote interpreting is something that it's fee for service, but you can use the interpreter in different places. So that's one of the services we're offering on demand. We're at all Service Canada, 344 locations, so deaf people don't have to make an appointment and wait 2 weeks for an interpreter to be available to apply for employment insurance, renew their passport. They simply walk in, connect with our interpreter, and go about their business. So we've been doing that now for the last couple of years, and we have other clients too, but so technology, anyway, there's lots.
I've learned so much. I had no idea. I think the average resident would have no clue.
Probably not.
Yeah,
no, unless you actually have firsthand experience or exposure to not being able to communicate with somebody, then you don't know, right? So part of my goal, my team's goal, is to educate and let the community know that there are services available, tools, interpreters, translation, which again, when we think about translation, we think about text-based content, word for word, English to French or other languages. In the deaf community, and to provide access, their first languages are ASL, which is American Sign Language, or LSQ, the langue des signes québécois. So there's not one sign language across the world. For every spoken language, there's a signed language. So our translation takes text-based content and we interpret it, translate it into a video format that can be used on websites, social media posts, training materials and so on. So, and that's also in addition to bringing an interpreter live on site, which we do as well.
Wow. And is it hard to find the talent to be interpreters? I would, that would be quite a skill set.
Absolutely, yeah. Not anybody can become an interpreter, and because of the Accessible Canada's Act and various provincial disability legislation, the federal government has put out some funding through Employment Services Development Canada, ESDC, an Opportunities Fund, and it's specifically focused on increasing the access to professional sign language interpreters, retaining and keeping and attracting new people into the field, as well as finding opportunities to have more deaf people trained to teach sign languages, amongst several things. So it's definitely an effort being made to increase the number of professional sign language interpreters because there's always a demand for our services. We used to joke many years ago, I'd say 20 years ago, summer, yeah, we could probably get a break, and Christmas time, we don't have those breaks anymore. It's very rare.
And I think often, and I'm even doing it when you were mentioning COVID, we think about interpretation when it comes to emergencies. We always saw the premier with an interpreter. We saw
Correct.
the prime minister with an interpreter, the mayor, that type of thing. But this is 365. I mean, this is not just in emergencies.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to take time, but interpreters should be part of everyday communication. So there should be an interpreter on this show, other shows, closed captioning is available, but what people don't realize is that English or French and other written languages is not the first language of deaf people. So their understanding is not going to be complete or comprehensive. So that's where having an interpreter or having the content translated is very important, and it's critical for people to understand and consume the information, because if they're reading it, there's going to be misunderstandings.
So if an entrepreneur is listening right now, a political representative, anybody in our community, what advice would you have to, for them if they're maybe having an event or they're wanting to engage the deaf community? What advice would you give them today?
Well, as a first step, of course, you can reach us at Asign, and depending on your event or some of the objectives that you're trying to achieve, we can give you several different options. But communication and outreach to the deaf community through social media is critical. Deaf people are on social media. There used to be deaf clubs across the country, but with time, technology, things have changed, and COVID, lots of those deaf centers are not there anymore. So it's become more online communication. So in order to reach the deaf community, let them know that you're accessible is critical, because if you don't let them know, they won't come. So it's not a matter of just putting out your event and saying once, so we have interpreters. Like, you really need to make an effort to communicate that externally.
Yeah, brilliant. I can see why the Ottawa Board of Trade would be important to you, because you're working with all the stakeholders we just talked about. Talk about the relationship with the Ottawa Board of Trade.
Yeah, so it's new for us. I mean, we've been in Ottawa, like I said, for 27 years, but over time, we've evolved, we've grown, and it was time. Like, last year we made the decision to join the Ottawa Board of Trade and really get out there and make sure that people were aware of who we are, what services that we offer, and just really making sure that access is possible. So opening more doors to possibilities for not only people in Ottawa, but across Canada to have access to interpretation and communication, because that's really what it is.
You're really this lifeline, this life link for people. It's really just kind of hitting me now as we talk how important it is.
Well, if you think about it, deaf people, they're able-bodied people. They communicate in their own ways without interpreters, of course. Like, they don't need us for every single moment of their life, but there are critical parts in someone's life where you need an interpreter to communicate. So, we kind of say A to Z, or, from cradle to grave. I don't even like to say that, but there's so many things that, so we're everywhere. We interpret everything and anything, from being in the courtroom to a kayaking course, or maybe I'm, so you could be really anywhere.
Yeah. Really interesting line of work too.
Absolutely.
I've learned so much today. I love this.
Oh, good.
Where can we find you?
So asign.ca is our website. You'll find our contact information there. You'll see some examples of what I mean by translating text-based content into sign language, because we have an avatar. We call it the floating translator, but it is a live interpreter that we've recorded that's translating the content on our website. So as you scroll on the website, the deaf community can get that live translation, and we have a English-French toggle button on their website, so you can see it in LSQ too. But certainly, Asign.ca, there's a contact us form, and we'd be happy to chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Roxanne Whiting joining us today, and she is the co-owner of Asign, also business development. It's been great spending time with you today on Ottawa Business Matters. I'm Sam Laprade. Until next time.